On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, another big win for Warner Brothers as Paul Thomas Anderson and Leonardo DiCaprio are setting up their new film together, shooting this year at Warner Brothers. Also, the Screen Actor Guild Awards have just put out their nominations, a big precursor to the Oscars, of course. Also, on top of that, one of the big snubs coming out of that, Leonardo DiCaprio not nominated for Screen Actors Guild. Also, watched Echo. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff, not just giving you our opinions, but hopefully also giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or even different than ours. Joining me in studio here, we got the sophisticated one, Ray Ora.
Hello.
Jonathan Boyko is here.
Hey, y'all.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello there.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making the show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. First, we're going to talk about those topics that I listed off. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, we already asked our beloved YouTube channel members to fire in some topics, but if you guys are watching live right now, and you have to be watching live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat, and we'll get to those questions as long as they're appropriate to be used on the show in the last part of the show. Ray, you had something else?
I just want to say thank you. John and Ann gave us a great Christmas gift last night. We got to sit in the box seats at a Laker game. Even my other brother-in-law, he said to John, "This is the greatest Christmas present I've ever received ever." And it's hard to see him smile because, you know, he married my sister, you know.
He's 6'9", it's way up
He's
there.
6'9", it's a
Tough
difficult
life,
stand
tough
smile,
life.
yeah.
But I got to sit among the kings. I even yelled down at Anthony Davis, said, "Hey, score 41 for Big Papa up here." And he did.
And he did.
Dropped it. And I also said, "Hey, Toronto Raptors, don't miss any three in the fourth quarter." And they did it too.
Yeah, they just railed. And, you know,
what
Will
a game.
Ferrell was there last night. Good Canadian kid there cheering on Toronto with Simu Liu. Shang-Chi was there last night.
Yeah.
We had a good time last night.
Yeah, it was a great game too.
And it put us in a good mood to come in and do today's show. And so that's what we're going to do. So
I haven't changed.
let's get things, Ray hasn't changed yet. Let's get things kicked off here. And we'll start with this. Right now, it's good being David Zaslav and Warner Brothers. Because despite the fact that everybody boo-hooed and cried and whined about the various things that I said were necessary things for David Zaslav to do to ensure the financial health, stability, and long-term success of Warner Brothers, everybody cried and whined about it, but what has happened? They have financially turned the tables. A little while ago, we read that article in Forbes that said Warner Brothers is now stabilized, and now they've gone from a cost-cutting position to a acquisition position where they're looking at making acquisitions. One of those things might be Paramount coming up. We'll find that out. And a lot of people cried and whined, boo-hoo, no one's going to want to work with Warner Brothers anymore. No talent director's going to want to work with them. Guess what? They're lining up. Yesterday, we reported that Tom Cruise is up and is moving his entire production company over to the Warner Brothers lot and has entered into a new development deal, and he's going to be working with Warner Brothers for years. And today, the headline has come out right here in the Hollywood Reporter. Leonardo DiCaprio to star in the new Paul Thomas Anderson film, also starring Oscar winners Regina Hall, Sean Penn. And this is what they had to write. They said this: Paul Thomas Anderson is lining up the cast for his latest film with Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, and Regina Hall set for the feature. The film is set up at Warner Brothers, whose studio picture group heads Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi worked with Anderson back when they were at MGM on his last film, Licorice Pizza, during their time at MGM. Now, I'm going to admit, I like Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm one of the few people that I didn't love Licorice Pizza, to be honest. It's one of my lesser favorite films of his. But, Rob, you know, if you go back and just listen to the public buzz 6 months ago of Warner Brothers, you know, they canceled Batgirl. They were pulling content off of things, all cost-cutting measures that they needed to do. But you listen to the interwebs, it was they're doomed. This is terrible. No one's going to want to work with them. It has been a significant win after significant win for Warner Brothers since then. Now we got Paul Thomas Anderson, Leonardo DiCaprio also now adding their names to it. They want to go over and make their new films at Warner Brothers. What do you think about this? And what do you think about, first of all, Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, and Regina Hall? What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, Paul Thomas Anderson's one of our auteurs, and he's somebody I'll always get out of bed for to see his films because whether you like them or not, you're getting something that is visionary and interesting. And, all the way back to Sydney, a.k.a. Hard Eight, I've been a fan of his work. Sometimes, dude, I hated Magnolia. I know some people like Magnolia.
I quite like Magnolia.
And a lot of people I love Boogie Nights. I hate it. But there's a lot in Magnolia that I did like Tom Cruise's performance was amazing. But for the most part, look, There Will Be Blood, one of the great movies of all time, I think,
Agreed.
actually. So I think it's great. I think, look, Warner Brothers as a studio has a long history of teaming up with directors and keeping them there for a long time. Clint Eastwood's still at Warner Brothers. He's been there for over 50 years. Kubrick was at Warner Brothers for the last part of his life, the last 20 years of his life.
And if David Zaslav had been in charge a little while longer, Christopher Nolan would still be there.
Yeah,
too.
Christopher Nolan would still be there, and maybe he'll go back. And we could see that as long as, Christopher Nolan almost single-handedly is keeping the movie theater experience alive. I mean, my God, he's the only man in Hollywood that can make a movie where people are basically talking in rooms for 3 hours, and it's the most riveting thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, fantastic.
And so I think this is a good move. I mean, look, I would like to see Warner Brothers come back as a force. I don't want them to buy Paramount. I want to see Paramount remain in its own thing. But if they have to buy it, okay. But I'm interested. I want to see what happens. I want to see Warner Brothers team up with talent and create new good work.
And again, right now, the top free agents seem to be lining up to working with Warner Brothers right now. We'll see if they're able to parlay that into something a little bit bigger moving forward. But listen, even take Paul Thomas Anderson's name out of it. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Regina Hall doing a film together. Oh, and it's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, by the way.
Yeah, and Sean Penn.
Yeah, what is not to be excited about that? So that's awesome. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? We just had the Golden Globe Award nominations the other night, or the actual awards the other night. And you know what? They put on a good show. I talked about all the pros about the show. They kept the show moving. I think there's some certain lessons that the Oscars can learn from the Golden Globes. But at their core, the Golden Globes are a small group of foreign press who are just really a bunch of nobodies voting in some secret small circles and giving out. They're useless, meaningless awards. Awards are not useless or meaningless and do carry a lot of credibility. The SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, because these are the actors voting on who they felt were the best in the world of acting that year. It is actors honoring actors. And I think that's significant, and I think that's important. And that's why, other than an Oscar, I think the award that most actors really do covet the most are the Screen Actor Guild Awards. And well, the nominations for this year's Screen Actor Guild Awards have come out, and we're going to go over them right now. All right. First off, outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role. Bradley Cooper in Maestro. Coleman Domingo in Rustin. I did not see this performance. This is the one performance on the list I didn't see. Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. Now, we're not going to go into it right now because we're going to save it for its own category. Obvious and conspicuous by his absence off this list is Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, which is really interesting, but we'll get to that in a second. Rob, you look at this list. Who's your call to take home the Screen Actors Guild?
Cillian Murphy. I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen American Fiction, and I love Jeffrey Wright. That's my goal this weekend is to see American Fiction.
I think you really like it. I liked it a lot.
Everyone loves it, and I can't wait to see it. But I mean, his performance in this film, it makes the movie, and I was blown away by it. But then again, I loved Giamatti in The Holdovers. I love The Holdovers. I thought it was great, and he was great in it. But there was something about Cillian Murphy's performance that or Cillian Murphy?
Cillian.
Is it Cillian Murphy?
Yeah.
Look, I loved Oppenheimer, and I keep watching it. It's an amazing performance.
To me, Oppenheimer is the better of the two movies.
Yeah.
Right? It's the better movie than I loved The Holdovers. But I got to tell you what, I think this is going to be a closer race, not just here at SAG, but also at the Oscars. I think it's going to be a much closer race. Like, listen, Bradley Cooper was great in Maestro. Take nothing away from him. Jeffrey Wright is incredible in American Fiction. I didn't see Coleman Domingo in Rustin, so I can't comment on that. But I really do think it is going to be a much closer race between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti than some people are thinking. And I think there is a chance Paul Giamatti could actually pull an upset and win in both of them. I mean, while, again, I think Oppenheimer is the better film, man, Giamatti is so good in The Holdovers.
No, he's really good.
You know, it's just incredible. So I think it's going to be one of these two guys. All right, let's move on here. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. Annette Bening in Nyad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, Margot Robbie in Barbie, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. I think this is a two-horse race again. I think this is either Lily Gladstone's or Emma Stone's for the taking. I think that was the general consensus for the last couple of weeks. That it's going to be down to the two of them. Emma Stone, again, already an Academy Award winner. They love her in the Academy. She is... And this is such a different... I love it when actors get to show their diversity.
Yes.
Because we have never seen Emma Stone play a role like this.
No.
And she's crazy good in this.
She's so good.
If it wasn't for Lily Gladstone in there, I'd say this is a shoo-in. Emma Stone's going to get her second Oscar. It's going to be a two-horse race. I think it's going to get edged out by Lily Gladstone. How do you see this going?
I think you're probably right. I mean, Lily Gladstone also has the groundswell of support and also the... her background, and I understand that there's an extra added oomph behind her, but Emma Stone's performance in Poor Things was fearless. And it's hard when you're mixing. Look, even though I don't think she's going to win, I watched Nyad, and I love Annette Bening.
She's I thought she was really good in it.
Remarkable. It's just that it's funny. I mean, I hate that I even think this way, but when I watch that movie, I'm like, of course she's this good. Annette Bening, I just assumed she's going to be that good. Whereas Lily Gladstone is somebody new, coming out of essentially obscurity to be thrust into the limelight in this 3.5-hour movie directed by Martin Scorsese, and she's actually really great in it. But I don't know if the role requires her to dig as deep as Emma Stone in Poor Things.
Here's the most impressive thing to me: what Lily Gladstone did. She was on screen with two easy first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yes.
Multiple Academy Awards between them, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, and she stole the movie.
And she absolutely holds her
when
own.
You upstage two of the greatest, not just today, but two of the greatest of all time.
100%.
And like you are drawing all the attention to you, and in the right way. I don't mean that in a diva way. That's something impressive.
It is.
And again, I think it's a two-horse race. I think she's going to get it.
Well, not to take anything away from her. She was incredible in the movie. She really was. And like you said, going up against that kind of talent and working with Scorsese himself. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. All right. We move on now to Best Supporting Actor. The nominees were Sterling K. Brown, of course, who won a lot of awards for This Is Us. Willem Dafoe in Poor Things, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, and Ryan Gosling as Ken in Barbie. Again, a two-horse race. I think it's going to be Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Gosling. I think Ryan Gosling's going to take the SAG award for this one. I've just spoken to a lot of actors who, while we watched this movie, and don't get me wrong, I loved Ryan Gosling in this movie. I did. I thought he was terrific in it. But it wasn't until I talked to a couple of actors that said, you got to understand what he was able to pull off on screen and make us as an audience feel and believe. Not many actors today could really pull off. And when you look at it like that, I think there is a strong shot. Again, I'm not saying he's going to win the Oscar, but as far as SAG, I think it's down to these two. I think it's a coin toss ultimately, but if I had to put $5 on it, I'm thinking maybe it's going to go to Ryan Gosling. How do you see it?
Look, no doubt. I agree with everything you just said, but Ryan Gosling was, for him, he relishes this kind of a role. There's a lot of Ken in him in real life. he's a really funny guy. You know, and you watch him like when he was promoting The Nice Guys, and when he was promoting working with Harrison Ford and all. I mean, so I don't think this was a real stretch for him. It was great what he did, but I think this is Robert Downey Jr.'s year across the board, only because it puts the final cap on his. He was up for an Academy Award for Chaplin. I think this is Robert Downey Jr.'s year because it's a career award as much as it is an acting award. And by the end, I mean, his performance is what makes Oppenheimer. That last hour, the whole hearing, I mean, he's incredible.
Yeah, it was some of the best work of his career.
Incredible.
No doubt.
And his performance makes the movie. I mean, it really drives everything home.
All right, we move now on to Outstanding Performance by Supporting Actress. The nominees are Emily Blunt, Daniel Brooks for The Color Purple, Penelope Cruz for Ferrari, which, by the way, I quite liked her in it. I'm surprised she got a nomination for this, to be honest, but still, I thought she was very good in it. Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. This one, I mean, from a number of weeks ago, we started hearing that this is probably going to be a very clear, direct path to the Oscars for Randolph for The Holdovers. It's probably hers to take. Emily Blunt was great in Oppenheimer. Danielle Brooks is great in The Color Purple. This is a very good, solid lineup. But, I mean, from the moment that I watched this movie, it's like, yeah, there's a good argument she could win Best Supporting Actress, and that seems to be all the momentum right now. So I don't know. Do you think anybody else has a dark horse shot at taking this from her?
No. I mean, Divine Joy Randolph was great. And the thing is, The Holdovers is a movie that lives and dies on its acting. And I thought it was a perfectly cast film. And she was great in it.
Yeah. All right. Then there's the big award. What is the SAG's version of Best Picture, if you will? It is the category of Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. The nominees are American Fiction, Barbie, The Color Purple, Killers of the Flower Moon, and that was it. And Oppenheimer are the nominees. Look, I wanted to take a really good hard look at Killers of the Flower Moon because De Niro's great in it. DiCaprio's great in it. Lily Gladstone's probably going to win. But when you look at not just the name recognition, take a look at this cast and think about what they did in this movie. You know, from Emily Blunt, Kenneth Branagh owned it every second he's on screen. Matt Damon as the military dude was great. I was afraid that I would just see Matt Damon. He made me forget that. Obviously, we talked about Robert De Niro. Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, I was going to say he was a standout.
This was his coming out party, I think. This was the movie that I think this movie reminded everybody, you know, Hartnett was a terrific actor that Pearl Harbor just completely sabotaged his career. And he should be a major A-lister today. By the way, he also this past year did that Operation Fortune with Jason Statham and Hugh Grant. And he was terrific in that movie with them as well. Rami Malek, Oscar winner in there. And you almost forget he was in the movie. But he was just so perfect. Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh. I mean, I don't see how Oppenheimer does not win this. I was thinking about The Holdovers too, but it's too small of a group of people. This was a from top to bottom movie that was carried by brilliant performances across the board. So I think Oppenheimer takes us. What do you think?
Oh, I would say, to me, Oppenheimer was my favorite movie of the year, bar none. I can't tell you how much. To me, it's like The Big Short. I can't stop watching it. I just keep watching it over and over and over again. I only see one drawback as far as Oppenheimer being voted on. It's a little, let's call it one-sided in terms of its cast. There's no diversity there. And, you know, I would think that...
But it's a historical movie, right? Those are who the characters
it's true.
were.
I agree. But I could see that there could be an argument made there. But, dude, for the most part, I would see if it's going to be edged out, it might be edged out by Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, I think if there's anyone to do it. But I just don't see them doing it.
But, dude, I have to say, I Oppenheimer is, to me, a jaw-dropping movie across the board, and the performances, like you said, make it. There's not one performance in that movie that is anything less than authentic at any one time. It's astonishing. The movie's an astonishing achievement, and you can't take your eyes off that film. There is nobody, even if somebody walks on, even Einstein.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, the performances in this movie are absolutely insane.
All right, guys. Those are the big nominations that have now come out for the SAG Awards. Who do you see winning and all that kind of stuff? And is this really going to be the true precursor going into the Oscars? Whatever you guys think, let us know down below. All right, guys. With that down, we still need to talk about, the elephant in the room with the SAGs, the Leonardo DiCaprio snub for the Best Actor category. Why did that happen? We're going to discuss that. Also, we're going to break down and talk about the Echo series. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up here. Even though there's really not much to spoil in this series, I am going to go into some details in it. But before we get to all that, we're going to take a second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Harry's. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Harry's. You know, guys, in order to start the John Campea Show, I had to leave my high-paying corporate job in order to set myself up to be happier and enjoy more personal success. Because sometimes to get what you want, you have to challenge the status quo and blaze your own trail. And that's exactly what the folks at Harry's did. You see, at Harry's, they saw customers getting ripped off by questionable products in the shaving industry and decided to do something better. Harry's decided to pave their own road by making beautifully designed razors for a fraction of the price of the other big brands. Exceptional products, honest prices. That's Harry's. I have fallen in love with Harry's, from their foaming shaving gel that feels just luxurious on the skin, to their incredible razor that feels just as good in the hand as it does going over your skin. They've got rich, lathering, skin-softening body wash in scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone. You see, Harry's provides German-engineered blades made in their own factory that stay sharp longer. You can get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. Don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. That's harrys.com/Campea for a $3 trial set. And thank you to our friends at Harry's for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's go on to this, shall we? You know, we were just talking about the SAG Award nominations coming out and a great list of nominees and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that really stood out, that is in the category of Best Lead Actor, the Screen Actors Guild did not nominate Leonardo DiCaprio for Best Lead Actor. To remind you, here's who did get nominated. Bradley Cooper got nominated for Maestro. Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for his incredible performance in American Fiction. No Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, before you allow yourself to think, well, maybe the SAGs just don't like Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio has been nominated 12 times for SAG Awards, including some Best Ensemble Cast Awards as well. But the Screen Actors Guild has nominated Leonardo DiCaprio aplenty. They like Leonardo DiCaprio. And make no mistake about it, Leonardo DiCaprio is in true fine form in Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought he was absolutely remarkable. I'm not saying he was as good in it as when he was fighting a hungry bear, but it is one of his finer performances, I think. I thought he was absolutely killed it in this movie. And yet, no nomination at the Screen Actors Guild. So could it be that maybe people are just could it be that yet again? I knew you were thinking about that same thing. Yeah, Lapel, could it be that yet again? For any of you guys who know that reference, bonus points to you. But, could it be that maybe they're just getting tired of Leo? You know, that Leo this, Leo that. These award voters are also human, but I don't think that's the case. I honestly think it comes down to one thing. And Rob, it's something that we mentioned before the new year came. This year's Best Lead Actor category was going to be a particularly stacked category. Yeah. Again, now listen, I mentioned earlier in the show, Coleman Domingo in Rustin is one of the performances I did not see.
He was, you know what? Absolutely well deserved.
Good.
This is one of the movies I really loved this year. I didn't know this story. Martin Luther King's right-hand man helped plan that march on Washington. He is fantastic. He also plays Mister in The Color Purple, and the Danny Glover role from the original. He's a great actor, and this is absolutely well deserved.
So, again, Bradley Cooper. Listen, there are many years that if this performance by Bradley Cooper was dropped in another year, could have been a favorite to win. That's how good Bradley Cooper is in Maestro. I didn't particularly love the movie overall. It was a little meandering for me. That being said, his performance was incredible. Cillian Murphy, we've gone on much about. Paul Giamatti could be the one to upset Cillian Murphy. Jeffrey Wright, I think, turns in the best performance of his illustrious career. And this is just truly a stacked category, which, Rob, it's one of those years and one of those categories that kind of defines why I often say the single hardest award to win is an Oscar. Because not only do you have to turn in the best performance of your life, you got to hope that out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies that came out that year, there weren't 5 other people that did the exact same thing. And so I think this was simply a matter of there was more than 5 insanely great performances, but only 5 nominee spots to give out. Why do you think Leonardo DiCaprio got left off this list?
Well, also, all these guys, he's a dick in this movie. I mean, he's not. He gives a great performance, but his performance is to be a really despicable human being.
It got Anton Chigurh an Academy Award, though.
Well, yeah, but you know what? That was fun.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're despicable and fun, like his Calvin Candy in Django Unchained,
yes. Now you have my
he's
attention.
a prick, but he's fun. In this movie, I think that I mean, I don't mean to be reductive, but still, we want to love our bad guys. And in this movie, I didn't like him at all. But to his credit, very watchable and a tremendous performance because he's an amazing actor, and I can always watch Leonardo DiCaprio. But I think all the guys that are nominated, their performances they made me feel a little bit more warm and fuzzy than Leonardo DiCaprio did in Killers of the Flower Moon. And I'm not saying that it has nothing to do with performance. It just has to do with perception of the character. Because Calvin Candy is a horrible human being, but fun to watch in that movie and has a great comeuppance. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but maybe. And also, like you pointed out, everybody just thinks Leonardo DiCaprio is going to give a great performance because he always does.
Yeah.
12 times, 12 previous nominations.
It's almost one of those things, like he's got the same thing kind of like Meryl Streep going on a little bit, is that his own brilliance can hurt him, right?
Right.
The fact that everybody just assumes, oh, he's going to be remarkable, right? It can maybe, when he just meets those expectations of being remarkable, oh yeah, well, he was just Leonardo DiCaprio doing Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, and then maybe that bites him in the ass a bit. Again, stacked category list, guys. Do you think Leonardo should have made that top 5? But if you are going to say that he should have made the top 5, who do you think should have been bumped out? Because that's where I get a little, like, I don't bump Bradley Cooper out. I don't bump Cillian Murphy out. I don't bump Paul Giamatti out. I mean, I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump on down to the comments and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to our main topic here today, shall we? And that is this. Echo. The 5 episodes doing what Disney Plus has not yet done before, which is dropping all 5 episodes at the same time as opposed to week by week. And now we know why they did that. Came out last night. Now, to give you a bit of background as far as my relationship with the Echo show, I thought they did an absolutely horrible job introducing Echo in the Hawkeye series. I thought, here's a character that could be very interesting, very unique, very cool. And they just in general wrote a very dull and unlikable, frankly, character in the Hawkeye series. So I had very little excitement or any interest whatsoever in the Echo series. And I know a lot of you guys felt the same. But like a lot of you guys, when that trailer dropped, I'm not saying that suddenly made me believe the show was going to be great, but it took me from zero interest in that show to interested in this show. That trailer was bonkers. And man, did Disney lean into it. This show is so dark and gory and adult, you gotta remember to go into your parental settings in Disney Plus and change it to TVMA because it's so hardcore. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Monster truck, skrr. I mean, and they tried to sell this narrative that this was going to be the grittiest, goriest, hardcore action brute fest you could possibly imagine it was going to be. And they also leaned in the fact that this is also going to be a real great examination of this Native American culture. I'm going to refrain from trying to name the name of the tribe because I've pronounced it like 8 different ways.
Choctaw.
What's that?
Choctaw.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to disrespect it by mispronouncing it. So they gave this promise that it was going to be really a cool cultural exploration as well, and all this kind of stuff. This show sucks. It sucks. And now it does a couple of things well. And let me touch on the things that I think it did well. The first thing that it did well that I really noticed, and I'm not saying this sarcastic, I mean, I truly applaud how they pulled this off. Unlike a lot of the other MCU stuff coming out now where you have homework you have to do if you're going to understand this show, they use the first 10 minutes of episode 1 that if you never saw an episode of Hawkeye and you never saw an episode of Daredevil, it didn't matter. They made sure that if you had never seen those other shows, you were good. Because I'm watching this and they very succinctly, not with all the nuance, but very quickly and very succinctly ran over. Here's how Maya thought about Kingpin. This is the role that Hawkeye had to play in that. This is what changed Maya's outlook towards Kingpin and ultimately ended with her shooting Kingpin in the face. A very minor injury, as it turns out, in the MCU. Somebody being shot in the face, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And within 5 to 10 minutes, they did a great job, not a good job, a great job of making sure, hey, new audience member, didn't watch any of the other stuff? No problem. Let us set the table for you. And they did a wonderful job. And I felt like even if I hadn't seen any of those other shows, I was right there ready to go. So honestly, bravo to them, because Marvel has proved that's not easy to do. And they did it, and they did it well. And I think that was great. Another thing that they did pretty well was 2 of the action sequences were quite good. There was the one action sequence that was in episode 1 that they used to plaster all over the ads and misled you into thinking this was going to be a nonstop action-packed series. It is not. But those action sequences they had were pretty good. And I want to give them kudos, and I want to give them credit for that. After that, however, you had a slogging, slow, at times painful to watch series that centered around, quite frankly, still quite an unlikable character in Maya, played brilliantly, by the way, but an intrinsically unlikable character. And this promise that they gave about it's really going to go into the culture of this native tribe, it never does. They touch on the Genesis mythology that this native tribe has, but they never go into the culture. What does a community of these folks look like? How does the relationships and the communities and their culture that they have shape the actions of what's going to transpire in this movie? Something like, what's the name of the Harrison Ford movie when he's amongst the
Witness.
Witness. Like what Witness did, right? Witness actually gets you into the culture of it, and that becomes a prominent part of how the story unfolds and how the character evolves. There is none of that. It's just another grandma. It's just another pawn shop owner. It's just another childhood best friend. Because other than the Genesis story that they kept retelling of the genesis of their race and everything, they really don't go into the culture. And I thought that was a big missed opportunity, other than to say, hey guys, we're going to have a powwow. Other than that, I thought it was a massively missed opportunity for an MCU show to really go in a different direction, dive into the culture like they did in Witness and stuff like that, and make that a part of Maya's evolution. But they didn't. It was really just Vin Diesel going, family. That's ultimately what it was. Now, I'm going to warn you that even though there's not a lot to quote unquote spoil, Iron Man doesn't show up, ladies and gentlemen. Like, there's not a lot to spoil here. I am going to go into a couple of the details because I really kind of partially want to save you from wasting your time on this show. The first thing that I found utterly ridiculous was they never explained. I thought at some point they would explain in the show, hey, how did Kingpin survive that gunshot to the face? Are you going to touch on that? There must be like some deep narrative, maybe even some kind of MacGuffin is going to be in here to explain how did Kingpin, with a gun 2 feet from his head, being shot in the face, how do you survive that? Nope. Never once touched on it.
McClunky.
McClunky is exactly it. Never once touch on it. He's got, but John, he's got a Band-Aid. See, he was hurt. Okay. All right. So they never touch on it at all. How did you survive a gunshot to the face? And then as it turns out, later, Kingpin decides to take off the eye patch, and I'm expecting to see some maybe cybernetic implant, maybe some glowing red power thing, like he made a deal with Mephisto. No, his eyes a little boo-boo. He got the boo-boo around the eye, a little bruising, some scratching around the eye, but his eye's fine. I didn't realize gunshot wounds to the eyes heal. I didn't know that. I don't need to go to medical school. I got Echo. Shoot yourselves in the face, kids, because you'll be fine. It's just crazy. And one of the other things is they reduce Kingpin in this show to a sniveling, whining, overly emotional reacting. Like, now listen, in the Daredevil series on Netflix, Kingpin could get emotional, right? But he was always calculated. It was focused rage. It was like, because when he decided, you hurt Vanessa, heaven help you, man, because you're done. You're done. But this was like, oh no, Maya, just come home. Oh no, Maya, I forgive you. Oh no, just come home. Come see me. Let's have dinner. Gonna have dinner. Great. Come see me at the casino. Great. Come at the casino. Man, I really hope you come to meet me on the plane. I want to give everything to you. Oh, she didn't show up to the plane. I'm going to kill her family, and I'm going to punch her grandma in the titties, and I'm going to blow up the powwow, and I'm going to do blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And then ultimately, it ends with ghosts and superpowers. It ends with grandma going, wait, my hands are glowing. I'm going to fuck some shit up. And you got Adam West, pow, bang, popping up all over the place. Ultimately, this childhood friendship that they haven't seen each other since they were 4, and there's somehow magically some deep bond between. It is just such a ridiculous,
Could happen.
nonsense, garbage show. It was just terrible. And they, by the way, this whole thing, make sure you reset your TVMA. It was that bullshit. This show is PG-13 at worst. There's like one scene of a dead guy laying down with some blood on his face. Okay. A snapping neck. Okay. This was a PG-13 show at worst, but they so leaned into this bullshit. Everybody get ready for the dark. Hide your kids, hide your wives, because this is only for the goriest, the most hardcore, biggest testicular fortitude of men because it's so violent. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is yet another... Listen, Marvel has had some big wins since Endgame, in my opinion. Guardians 3, WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, Shang-Chi.
No Way Home.
No Way Home, clearly. I thought Loki Season 2 was an improvement on Loki Season 1. Marvel has had some big wins. But this is yet another entry to add to the pile of just disappointments to me. Anyway, that's kind of my take on it. Rob, you had a chance to watch it. You watched a little more than half of the series so far. Where have you been left so far?
Well, this is the thing I guess I don't understand. The sort of Shakespearean father-daughter family element to crime drama is something that we have seen for decades, decade after decade after decade after decade. And the thing is, the relationship between Kingpin and Echo was something that should have been, I think, much better. It should have been much more Godfather-esque. It should have had much more resonance. And I felt that when you're watching something like this, I felt like, gosh, it wasn't inspired. I didn't get anything new from it. I felt like these were well-trodden crime movie genre tropes that they didn't do much new with. I really did like some of the things they did with ASL and how the sign language and showing. I agree. Yeah. You know, it's really interesting when they talk about, you know, giving representation to people with disabilities or challenges, however you want to call it. I always like it when you get insight into what is it like to live in that world. And they did some really interesting stuff with Echo to speak to that, which I thought was definitely inspired. But the actual story itself, we've seen done so much better in so many different places. And that's the thing. I mean, one of the things I really loved about what the MCU did was it would take like a heist movie, but then they would give us Ant-Man, or a 70s political thriller would become Captain America the Winter Soldier. And they were really great at taking different kinds of genres and giving it their own MCU twist. And I thought I was kind of looking for that with this. And I felt that it was one kind of cliche after another. And I felt it was entirely uninspired. And that bothered me.
Yeah, and again, I just not quite sure. I just think you had a lot of the right pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought, listen, Echo could be an immensely interesting character. Taking her back to her culture could have been an immensely interesting thing. But at the end of the day, it was a show of covering a lot of ground that they already covered in Hawkeye. Oh, I'm connected to Kingpin, and I'm mad at Kingpin, but Kingpin wants me on his side. It's like, we covered all this ground.
Yeah.
And you shot him in the face, which was apparently no big deal. And then it came down, and she's supposed to be this more gritty street level kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the movie gets changed because she has a 10-minute conversation with a ghost and gets superpowers. It was just, and ultimately it was about save the powwow. I mean, save everybody. It's literally, a big bad guy is literally sitting on top of an RV in clear sight of anybody who's bothering to look, and just pulls out a big bazooka. I'm going to shoot me this thing. And a guy shoots him. And that's some big resolution or so. It was just so badly to such a missed opportunity. There's so many cool ways it could have gone. It's just, at the end of the day, Rob, to me, this series did not live up to the promise of that brilliant trailer. Because that trailer was brilliant. It got me on board.
And again, I just think that the talent involved in terms of the conception of the story, I think where it really fell down was, like you said, they had all the elements. It was, for me, the writing. It was the writing and the story. I just felt that it was uninspired, and it was a real missed opportunity because, like you said, they did have the elements.
They did. Yeah, they had all the elements and just didn't do anything with it. And I don't know. I think this is the last we're going to see of Echo. I don't know that they're going to do anything more with it again. But, hey, listen, to be clear, the last I checked, it's gotten the high 60s of a critic rating. Now, granted, those critic ratings are only based on the first 3 episodes.
Right.
But still, high 60s. So more critics like it than don't. So just take my opinion as one opinion. All right. Mine and Rob's, ours is just one set of opinions in a plethora seascape of opinions out there. You may be somebody who enjoys a show. I hope that you do. I'm going to be jealous if you do, because I wish I could have liked it. But yeah, remember, ours is just one opinion. It just happens to unfortunately be a pretty negative opinion on it, but that's that. All right, guys, with that down, we're now going to move over and start taking your live comments and questions. Got something to say about Leonardo DiCaprio, the SAG Awards, new Paul Thomas Anderson, maybe Echo? Whatever it is, guys, the floor is open. But before we get to those questions, we're going to take a second to thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Our friends at MasterClass and my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, MasterClass. Everyone, it's a new year. So picture that thing that you've always wanted to learn. Now, picture learning it from a person who's literally one of the best in the world at it. And that's what you get with MasterClass. This year, learn from the best to become your best with MasterClass. Don't just talk about improving. MasterClass helps you actually do it. Because MasterClass offers over 180 world-class instructors, so whether you want to master negotiation with Chris Voss, like I did, think like a boss with Martha Stewart, or learn the art of storytelling from the man himself, Neil Gaiman, MasterClass has you covered. Because with MasterClass, you get unlimited access to intimate one-on-one classes with the world's best. At MasterClass, there are over 200 classes to pick from, with new classes being added every month. And if you're a viewer of the John Campea Show, you probably love movie making, storytelling, television. So you'd be totally interested in things like screenwriting from Aaron Sorkin, learn developing original TV series from Stranger Things' The Duffer Brothers, or maybe you like the music side of movies. Well, you can learn film scoring from Hans Zimmer. And right now, our listeners will get an additional 15% off an annual membership at masterclass.com/Campea. Get 15% off right now at masterclass.com/Campea. masterclass.com/Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass and Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode. All right, guys, before we get started into the questions, I want to point this out. Just before the show started, Rob and I were talking about, yesterday they announced that Dave Filoni was going to be directing the Mandalorian movie. And where's
John
this?
Favreau.
What did I say?
Dave Filoni.
Did I say Dave Filoni? John Favreau is going to be directing, not Dave Filoni, despite the fact that they had announced that they were going to do this Mandoverse movie and stuff like that. That seems to be done. And we're talking, and I think Rob brought up, I wonder what the future of Ahsoka is going to be. I said, you know what? They're still going to do Ahsoka 2. I think they're still going to do Ahsoka 2. That was like 5 minutes before we started the show. Well, after we started the show, this came out on Instagram. On Lucasfilm's Instagram, it says, the story continues, Ahsoka Season 2 now in development.
Hey, look, they're on the Argonath.
Look at the comment right below it. How can a story continue when it never really began?
Oh. What else are people saying? Show's mid. We want Andor.
So mid.
Where is Andor? I want Andor. Anyway, they are. So Ahsoka Season 2 is happening. I think that means that probably that movie concept they had is probably ditched, and they're just going with the Mandalorian. But who knows? We'll see what the plans are. All right. Let's get over to your live questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up here first?
Sanchez guy writes, hey, John and crew, have you heard Sony's company Columbia Pictures is now 100 years old today?
Yeah.
Also, Columbia's supernatural franchise Ghostbusters is 40 years old today.
What?
Or at least
wow.
now.
Is the original Ghostbusters 1983?
Yep.
Yeah.
1984?
Beverly Hills Cop
Ooh.
is 40 years old. There's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is 40 years old this year. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock is 40 years old this year.
Really?
Yeah, dude. We're going to die soon.
Oh. Oh my God. But, congratulations to Columbia Pictures. I mean, there have been some big century celebrations with Warner Brothers, Disney, stuff like that. It's just a reminder to us just how long the Hollywood business has been around making movies, man.
Columbia dropped on Twitter today a really cool 100th anniversary logo.
Ooh, I like to see
It was
that.
really neat. I thought Disney and Warner Brothers last year was their 100th anniversary. I thought it was a total bust. They didn't do nearly enough. I think Columbia is going to come out hot.
40
Give
years.
us a lot of cool stuff.
40 years doesn't feel as long as it sounds. That's from the Richard. That's what getting old feels like. That exact
All right,
feeling.
what's next?
We got Raymond Verrata. The Emmys is showing this Monday on Fox. Do award shows do better on Monday? This year's show is at the Peacock Theater. Used to be Nokia and Microsoft.
Oh, is that when the primetime Emmys are? On Monday?
Yeah.
For some reason? Okay.
So Peacock Theater, that's like downtown.
Well, that's where I went to go see the Game Awards. The Game Awards were held at the Peacock Theater. You know, it is interesting that they're doing it on Monday. It'll be interesting to see how well or they do or do not do. Because, Oscars, Golden Globes, they have it on Sundays. I always thought they should move those to Fridays or Saturdays. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of viewing numbers they get.
A lot of good stuff this year at the Emmys, too.
Oh, a lot of good stuff. A lot of big stuff. All right, what's next?
All right. The Richard writes, Echo is truly quality. I am Choctaw and born 4 miles from where the story takes place. Adds a layer of to my variety show art projects.
Hey, listen, if you enjoyed it, I'm glad that you did. The trailer, I went from having zero interest in this into being quite interested in it because of that trailer, but I thought it was very poorly done. But if you enjoyed it, and that's the beautiful thing about the art, man, is it hits us all in different ways. If it hit you in such a way that you enjoyed it, I celebrate that. I think that's great. All right, what's next?
We got CR who writes with a $20 super chat.
Oh, thank you, CR.
Remember that scene in Attack of the Clones when Padme and Anakin are sitting by the fire? Best dialogue ever, am I right? I am haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me.
Listen, the whole prequel series. I mean, I know as decades go on, some people go back and try to fool themselves into thinking they weren't as awful garbage as they are. They are. But the whole prequel series is really a manifestation of what Harrison Ford said to George Lucas. George, you can write this shit, but you can't say it. And that entire thing from the rolling down the grassy hills. Yeah, really, truly, truly awful dialogue. It takes a lot to say that all the sequels are better than it, but all the sequels are better than the prequels. All right, what's next?
We got the Richard is back here and writes, Nosferatu is my favorite creature ever. I'm also stoked for May. Oopsie, Lisa Frankenstein. You guys latch on to Warm Bodies, though. May by Lucky McGee is gold.
Listen, this Nosferatu thing is a really interesting thing with the Skarsgård getting in there. You got Robert Eggers directing it. I mean, and a dynamite cast lined up as well. So I'm really excited about that. You got much attention on that? Because I know you're a Robert Eggers fan.
Dude, I love Robert Eggers, and I love Nosferatu. And like the Richard said, Nosferatu is one of the great. They're going back to that old Max Schreck looking makeup, which I've loved. It's funny. May was put out by Second Sight on a beautiful. I have a beautiful box set of that on Blu-ray, but I can't wait. I mean, Robert Eggers, to me, his great strength is atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Whether it was The Northman, whether it was Lighthouse, whether it was The Witch, that guy knows how to evoke a time and a place where you feel it as an audience member. You're drenched in it, which I love. It's really hard to do, and he's the best there is at it.
All right, what's next?
All right, CR sends some support. Thank
you, CR.
Thomas writes, will you guys be doing the best worst films of 23?
Nah, too late. I wanted to do a best of, but I never had a chance to see Poor Things between my trip back home and then getting really sick. And it's just like, it's now what, January 10th? Yeah, no, it's too late to do it. So I wanted to do one, but I'm not going to do one. All right, what's next?
Matt Boyle writes, Charlie Hunnam hasn't had a big hit in a while. I think the best bet for him is to try to get in with HBO, and he will fit in very well in the Game of Thrones universe. Well, if only it was that easy.
Well, I mean, it's not just a matter of, just join this. Well, there's 10,000 actors lining up to get a shot in those. A lot of people think that actors can just go and hook up to any project they want. And it's really not, unless your name is DiCaprio or something of that ilk. No, you got to submit yourself. You got to send your agents out to try to negotiate stuff. You got to try to fight and get the big roles that you want. Like Emily Blunt recently did an interview where she talked about all these big movies in the past 10 years that she lost out on. Emily Blunt, one of the biggest stars in the world. And she was talking about all these movies that she really wanted, but lost out on to somebody else, right? It's so, and listen, an actor, it's never in an actor's control if their movie's a big hit or not. All an actor can do is go into a role and give the best performance they can. It's not about whether something's a big hit or not. And so, and I really like Charlie Hunnam. I really do. I love him. As a matter of fact, I just spent more money than I've ever spent on a collectible in my life. I just bought a Sons of Anarchy vest with Charlie Hunnam, Ron Perlman, Hearst, and the kid who plays, who was the fourth kid who played it? The shaved head one, and I'm forgetting his name. I don't know why, because I watched the show religiously. Anyway, I just bought a vest autographed by all those guys, and it's crazy. I love Charlie
You got to
Hunnam.
get like a torso mannequin so you can
Someone said
put it in
Theo.
your
or-
entryway at your house.
Yeah, Theo Rossi. Thank you. It was Theo Rossi. So those four guys, the four main guys of Sons, autographed the back of it. Loved it. And I've actually got in my shopping cart on Amazon a standing black mannequin torso, so I can put it on set here.
That'd be badass.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. All right, what's next?
Bobby Jackson says, "Hey John, I fall in line with the 70% critics over on Rotten Tomatoes that liked Echo. I'm not clamoring for more, but would watch it if she got another spotlight."
I'm glad you would. I would not. It's just, not only was it bad for more, I just thought it was bad. It was just a badly made show that had terrible pace. And by the way, the reason they dropped it all at once is they knew if people watch these things episode to episode, they'd bail after the first two, I think. But again, that's the beautiful thing about the art. It hits us in different ways. And if it hit you in a way that you enjoyed it, that's the most important thing. All right, what's next?
With a $20 super chat, Michael Jones writes,
Thank you, Michael.
Cut out a theatrical release. It is more profitable for a movie to go straight to VOD or streaming.
Well, there's no such thing as profitability going to streaming.
Yeah.
Just there's no such thing as profit because there's no money to be made. So I mean, with VOD, there's at least financial transactions that can happen that are directly connected to that. So theatrical is obviously the way to do it. But other than that, if you want to try to scoop out some money, you got to do VOD and then maybe end up on streaming with some kind of a licensing deal.
Streaming is essentially, just think of it as like your public library. You got your library card. In this case, you paid your monthly fee to go in, and you're accessing a library. But the studios aren't making money, and the publisher isn't making money every time you check out a book at the library.
Yeah. And the problem with VOD too is that nobody knows it's there. You've got 150 million movies on VOD, and people have to scroll down and decide what they're going to pick. And if you're paying for it, if it's a rental title, the road to profitability is a long, long road. So,
all right, what's next?
A long and winding road.
Dun, dun.
The Richard writes, speaking of things we feared or were fascinated by as kids, what has never been made as focus in film? What has never been made as...
I have no idea what the question is asking.
Yeah, speaking of things...
Well, like clowns or spiders or, what childhood fear has not been turned into a movie? I think they pretty much all have been touched
they covered
on.
it with It.
Yeah.
It did it all.
Yeah.
Spiders
I
and
can't
clowns.
imagine.
It's hard to think of what.
Childhood abandonment, your parents leaving you, getting caught in the dark.
That's a real nice.
Is there
Stuck
a movie about
outside.
the fear of heights? I mean,
As a child.
Well, Vertigo.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of.
Oh, that one
The
tower
Fall,
movie
that
was
tower
crazy.
movie,
Oh,
The
yeah.
Fall.
That one
Cujo?
tower-
Yeah,
Cujo,
fear of rabid dogs.
Fear of animals. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know that there is. All right, what's next?
John Check writes, back in 2022, I wrote in that I was homeless. Ray was extremely kind to me. Last year, I wasn't homeless and made the most money I've ever made in a year.
Good.
Love you guys. Keep it filthy.
Oh, good, man.
Congratulations.
Good to hear that. It's always
That's
nice
awesome.
to hear a positive thing happen in people's lives. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate hearing that. All right, what are we up to now?
All right. Marley Villasenor with the $20 super chat. SAG noms came out this morning, and I'm not trying to hate, but I don't quite get the award attention for Barbie in so many categories. It even got a stunt ensemble nom. Box office success, but so was Maverick last year.
No, listen, the actors don't care about box office success. The Screen Actors do not care about whether a movie had box office success or not. That they don't give a crap about it. A lot of people loved that movie and thought it was just a really brilliantly made film. Now, it's not my top 2 or 3 of the year by any stretch of the imagination, but I know a lot of people, a lot of film industry people who have worked in this industry a long time that absolutely just loved this film. They thought it was insightful and brilliant. They thought the performances, like the role of Barbie in this movie is very unlike, name 10 other roles in Hollywood history that are like that role.
Well, also,
I don't know that you can name 10.
the whole ensemble, I mean, what you're playing is a total fantasy construct creation. And if they weren't able to win your heart, it wouldn't have worked. And the fact that that entire ensemble was able to pull that off, make you believe in those characters, that turned those Barbie characters into people that you cared about, it wouldn't have worked. And I think they all did. Look at Gosling, man.
Yeah.
He might not have he's not Othello or Hamlet or anything like that, but I'm Ken. And you believe him. You're going to remember that character in 20 years, the same way you remember Ron Burgundy. You're going to remember that portrayal of Ken.
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard to do.
All right. What's next?
All right, the Richard is back and says, I'm not sure how to pronounce this artist's name. Is it Basquiat? Basquiat. I'll sleep on the streets with Jeffrey Wright because he portrayed the artist.
Yeah.
I have thought, going all the way back to, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's that train murder mystery movie that he did with the guy who's in Roadhouse right now, Gyllenhaal, with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, Source Code.
What? Source Code.
Yeah.
Thank you. I remember watching Source Code, and we had seen Jeffrey Wright before that, but it was in Source Code that I remember thinking James Earl Jones, the guy who just played Alfred, Ben Affleck's Alfred.
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons and Jeffrey Wright as the best voices in Hollywood. I remember watching that movie that made me go, he's one of the, I put him up there with James Earl Jones. He's got one of the best pure voices in Hollywood, but he's also shown his diversity, showing up in stuff like Hunger Games. Right. As well. I mean, he's just insanely good. And I think it's about damn time people are starting to recognize just how good this guy is. And it's really satisfying to see that. All right, what's next?
All right, we've got Bike Man who says Fight Club and Sixth Sense turned 25 this year.
Yeesh.
You know what, though? Both of those, to me, oftentimes I'll hear movies turn 10 and I'll go, oh my God, that just feels like it was yesterday. Those are two movies that feel like they were a long time ago to me. I don't know why, but both of those.
So does The Matrix. 25 years this year.
Yeah, so that's 99, right?
99.
Yeah,
or in Keanu Reeves' voice, whoa. I mean, yeah, that, oh God, that's crazy. That's turning 25? That is nuts. All right, what's next?
All right, Richard Lai says, hey, John, here's a question. If Rockstar Games allowed a Red Dead Redemption or Grand Theft Auto adaptation, which studio streamer would benefit the most? Warner Brothers, HBO, Netflix, or Amazon?
Doesn't matter. Any and all those could do a great job with those properties. The reality is any and all of those have had tremendous success in developing IP. All of them have failed at it too, but all of them have had some high profile, great, tremendous successes. So honestly, it really wouldn't matter. You could name any one of those and I think it would be in good hands.
If they were to do that, they need to do it right now to the lead up of the game release. Let's say it's connected to the game somehow, some way. That would probably be the perfect, because if you release it any other time, it's just going to be another heist movie. Would it though? Because like The Last of Us came out nowhere near anything else, and it had great success. But The Last of Us had characters that you got attached to, and wanted it. You're literally playing a version of yourself when you're doing GTA.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think they should stick to the game. I think if they should do an original story that way.
Yeah, they just kind of exist in that world.
I mean, it's a crime. The thing is, Grand Theft Auto is already an amalgamation of all the crime thriller movies.
It'd be so meta.
Yeah, and Red Dead Redemption is kind of the same way. It takes all the Western tropes from Western film history and puts them into a video game. So to make a Red Dead Redemption movie is just you're making a Western.
Yeah, and hopefully a very good one.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could. All right, what's next?
Max Finkel with support. Yeah, Max Finkel with support, and that's it. And so we can
Thank
move
you,
over-
Max.
We can move over to our member chat over here. JCSC says, who would you rather have with you on a wild weekend? Tom Ellis, Lucifer, or RDJ's Tony Stark?
Oh, that's easy. Tom Ellis is Lucifer.
100% and twice on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it would work on Sunday.
Oh, yes,
doubt.
it would.
No, that's easy. That is 100% easy. Definitely you want Tom, not Lucifer, but Tom Ellis's Lucifer. Yes.
Yes.
That's the dude you want partying with you that weekend. What is it you desire?
None of those people cook. So it doesn't
Oh, no, Lucifer cooks.
Oh, okay, then
Oh,
that's him.
He's
yeah.
cooking with fire.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right. Callum says, hey, crew, I just saw it's been 25 years since Soprano. What is this? 25-year anniversary of everything. Since Sopranos aired. If you watched the show, who's your favorite character in the show? Mine was Christopher. I don't think
You know,
mine was Christopher.
I don't think mine was Christopher either. Although the actor, I keep forgetting his name, but he went on to star in a short-lived series on ABC called Detroit 197.
Michael Imperioli.
Michael Imperioli.
Yeah, he's great. I love the
And-
actor.
He was in White Lotus last season.
And the reason that's important is because that was a show that he co-starred with Aaron Cummings. Aaron Cummings and Michael Imperioli starred in that Detroit 187, I think it was called. Detroit 187. Yeah, so I mean, look, I don't mean to sound cliche-ish, but it was Soprano. It was
Tony, yeah.
It was Tony. It was Anthony. I mean, it was him. And you know what? One of the things that I loved the series. I talk about it all the time, obviously. But when they started to de-emphasize the nature and the relationship of the therapy sessions between him and the therapist, and that kind of got de-emphasized more as the show went on, I thought that was a real loss, because to me, that was like the real heart of the show when it started. But even then, the rest of it was great. Do you have a favorite character in the show?
I love Tony's mom.
Ah.
Because, when that show, the
She was
first
so
season,
awful, though.
that's why I love it, because she was based on Livia, Sean Phillips' character from My Claudius. But what I thought was really interesting is the first show of The Sopranos, like you pointed out, John, the therapy sessions and the mother was the core of that show. And Nancy Mershon, who played that character, died halfway through the second season. And it sort of lost what made it unique and became more of a traditional crime thriller. And as you said, they moved away from even the therapy angle. Still an incredible show.
Oh yeah, still incredible.
Is that
the way
show
it evolved.
brutal or what?
Yes.
It can be,
It
yeah.
is?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
All right, what's next?
Okay. We got Jared, who says the second trailer for Three Body Problem came out yesterday. It looks to be as epic as the books. Here's hoping.
Fingers crossed.
You know, it's funny. I was at the game last night with Ray, and my buddies texted me the new trailer for it. I haven't seen the first trailer for it. I don't have any idea
neither.
what this is about. I've
What
never
is
even
it?
heard of the book.
Okay, so the book is a Hugo Award-winning book. It's part of a trilogy called The Remembrance of Earth's Past. It's a Chinese science fiction series. The Three Body Problem was already adapted. You can watch the 30 episodes of the first book by the Chinese. There's a Chinese adaptation. It's incredible. It's an incredible thing, and it's Weiss and Benioff's follow-up to Game of Thrones.
Oh, that one. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
It looks like they've spared no expense. I just hope the first book is so Chinese. I mean, now they've, by necessity, by adapting it for the West, they are going to have to take the emphasis off China, actual China, where most of it takes place.
That's Netflix?
It's going to, yeah. I got to tell you, it looks incredible. Fingers crossed. It's one of my most eagerly awaited things of the year. I hope it's great. I like the Chinese show, but it was very Chinese in its telling, so it's a little difficult for Western audiences to watch, but I thought it was quite good. And I hope they do all three books, because it's a wild ride, man. Once it gets started, it goes crazy.
There's someone behind everything. You just have to dig. Three Body Problem.
Yeah.
All right,
That's a tag.
what's
I don't
next?
know.
Culture Wars Diplomacy recently saw an article for She is Conan, and I'm curious but also scared of what I might see. Is it a French surreal-looking film? Or it is a French surreal-looking film. While claiming to be inspired by the classic Barbarian, it also seems to be inspired by James Allison, another Robert E. Howard character.
I know nothing
She
about
is
it.
Conan.
I haven't seen.
She is
I,
Conan?
I don't know, but I'd watch that. Bring it on.
All right, what's
All
next?
right, let me just quickly refresh here because there was a few more that came through. Okay. That Funko Dad. Hey, crew, a couple of questions. First, will the Campea newsletter be making a comeback? Second, have any of you seen the trailers for the Netflix show Three Body Problem? It's from the creators of Game of Thrones. I've seen 2 trailers and couldn't begin to explain what this show is about.
No, the newsletter won't be making a comeback. The newsletter was something I was really excited to start up and try, and I liked it. But there have been things I've tried over the years that I thought would be good, but never caught on. And the reality is, while a lot of people signed up to the newsletter when we first started it, new signups then kind of turned into a very, very small trickle. And it was in the single digit of thousands of people who subscribed to it. And it just didn't catch on. So if we weren't making something that was being really embraced more widely by our audience, then there was no point in putting energy and effort into it. And so after doing it for a couple of months, I decided to pull the plug on it because it just, not enough of you guys thought it was worth doing. And that's fine. I love trying new things to see if it catches on or not. And that was something that didn't. So I abandoned it. All right. Last question of the day. What's next?
Alan says, happy Wednesday, Campea crew. I'm hoping that RDJ, Cillian Murphy, and Christopher Nolan win at the Oscars this year. Do you have any specific actors, actresses, or directors that you are hoping to win this year?
I don't really have I would say for me, the only one that I had like any kind of bias, I hope this one wins, was Nick Offerman winning the Emmy for Best Guest Actor in a Series. And that happened. He won. I have no dog in this hunt. Like, if Cillian Murphy wins, I think it's well-deserved. If Paul Giamatti wins, I think it's well-deserved. If Bradley Cooper wins, I think it's well-deserved. It's, if Martin Scorsese wins Best Director, it's well-deserved. I mean, that is I think it's too long, but it is a masterfully directed film. If Christopher Nolan wins, I have no problems with that because what he did with Oppenheimer is insane. So, no, I really don't. I'm not going into the Oscars or the award season in general hoping certain people win. One exception. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse fucking better get a Best Picture nomination. That's what. Doesn't have to win, but it better get a Best Picture nomination. I don't know. Do you got anything you're kind of
I want Nolan to win Best Director. I really do.
It's a long time coming. Long time coming. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you give us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow. And until then, I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
Adios.
the classy one, Jonathan Voico,
The trashy one.
writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
I'm the one whatever you want me to be, I'm that guy.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.